Don't say I've had too much. The room surrounds me, I cannot stay in touch. And I know my mind from my body. Don't tell me it's not so. Oh, say it's so easy. Say I'm not worth it. Oh, take me for granted. I'm not perfect. Show me the better side of the world, yeah. Play me, I tell you, I won't be pushed. Don't say I've had too much. The rooms around me, I do not give a fuck. And I
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube and Twitch channels. Sorry I was late today for the stream, but here I am nonetheless. I hope you guys are having a great Halloween day. And if you guys have kids, that they're having fun. And if you don't, that you're eating all the fun candy that you can get your hands on. Or that you're giving it away. I don't know. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're having a good day. Good Thursday. Hello, Cannibalistic Wizard. I hope you're doing well today. Hope you're having a good day. Elbow Cow. He says. And of course, I do have the Streamlabs link in the description. I am wearing my I don't know what I'm supposed to be. 80s rocker, I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm in a costume. So if you'd like to see me do jumping jacks in this costume, there's the link. We've got some videos to go over today. Shoe on Head dropped a video about why men are moving right, apparently. And we all know how much I love Shoe on Head. Anyway. And then we have Don't Walk Run has put out a video about Joe Biden calling everybody that doesn't want to vote for him garbage, or Kamala garbage. I'm sorry, Kamala. Not Kamala, Kamala. I'm sorry. We gotta put the emphasis on the correct syllable. Hello, Keyshawn. Happy Halloween. I hope you're doing well. And then we, of course, have question period. And it's going to be a fun adventure in that area, because it always is. It's always fun. The emote I'm using is called dabbing. I don't know why it's called elbow cow or elbow cough. I don't know either. Cause it's stupid. That's why. Because YouTube is dumb. So yeah, I'm here with my coffee, and I'm here with my videos, and I'm here with my costume. And, yeah, we're just gonna have a good stream, I think. I think it's gonna be fun. And, yeah. I think we're gonna start with our Don't Walk Run video. And, I spent the morning creating a parody of the preamble to the Constitution song.
Put it up on a video.
Huh?
Put it on a video.
I did. And I recorded the video. I'm gonna put.
The video you're saying is you're scared to put up.
Yes.
Suck it up and put it up. Suck it up and put it up. Actually, premiere it and then put it up.
What do you mean?
Put it on right now for our entertainment and then put it up.
Like how do I do that?
Play it on your YouTube channel?
But it's not on YouTube yet.
Oh, you haven't even uploaded it to private?
No.
Oh, you're fired.
I'm fired. I guess I am. I will upload it tonight, I promise. But
After the show, it'll go up after.
it'll go up after the show.
It's an incentive.
Huh?
It's an incentive.
Yeah. It's an incentive to stay till after the show, because I'll put it on up after the show.
Now I'm actually seeing videos of these issues going on.
What issues?
Machines.
Huh?
Now I'm actually seeing the voting machine issues. I just saw a video of somebody pushing Trump and it collecting Harris and it tapping Harris.
Okay.
So I just saw the video. However, that could be duplicated. There's a lot of dip floating around.
How can
A
it?
lot of dip going around.
How can it be duplicated?
It's not duplicated. It's deceptive. It's deceptive information. Deceptive information and photos. It's an actual new. It's actually a new thing that they're doing, where they're a lot of like these photos and stuff, like the Kamala Harris photo.
Oh, the McDonald's.
Yeah, that was considered dip because of how extensive they went to do it.
Right.
And it was extensive. As much as the errors that were there was a lot of extensive work that was done to make it look right. But they suck at Photoshop. So, but it's the fact that they also, it was from an obituary a week prior. Kind of fucks up. But that's one thing. But then it's going all around from everywhere. We're getting it up here. We're getting it down there. All of the disinformation shit that you're hearing from both sides, a lot of it, whenever it comes to having backing now, is considered deceptive information practices.
Hey, I just realized this is going to be the first time that we vote in a small town. I wonder how accessible voting's going to be here.
Probably the same. It's a blind town here. Remember, we came here not knowing that city council was talking about you before we moved here.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting. Where's my chat? Oh my god. I can hear it.
They're talking about 90 to 100K.
Have we had any goblins yet?
No, I've got the pumpkins out at the side so they can get to the door. As long as they don't go to the front. If they're too stupid to follow the pumpkins, they're not getting game.
I hope.
One pumpkin out front and one pumpkin at the side. Both are perfectly visible. And I almost blew them up last night trying to get the photos because I used a little too much alcohol. I didn't have a candle, so I used rubbing alcohol and paper towel.
Oh,
That turned into a pretty big flame.
I bet it did.
The photos are on Twitter if anybody's curious, and on my Insta. Just not the flaming pumpkin. Oh, I should have got a picture of the flaming pumpkin. That would be cool. That's a new band name, the Flaming Pumpkins.
Is that a spin-off of the Smashing Pumpkins?
Yeah, they only play in gay bars though.
Oh, okay. All right, guys, let's see here about what Joe Biden has been saying, because we can't ignore our good American friends in the political landscape. We have to do some laughing at them too. We can't just neglect the Americans. We have to show some love to them. So let's see what Mr. Andrew of Don't Walk Run Productions has to say about this. Hello. Hello.
This is Tony Hinchcliffe,
It didn't share?
a comedian and host of the very popular comedy showcase Kill Tony. Recently,
Okay.
at a Donald Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, Tony Hinchcliffe told a joke.
Okay.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Okay, yeah, that
Okay.
it was
alright.
a stupid
And
joke,
of course,
but
many in the media jumped on this joke in an effort to attack Donald Trump by proxy.
yes, because Donald Trump, like other people, are this happens a lot. People around somebody will make a joke or do something, and then everyone is yelling at the other person. Why didn't you stop them? As if they have control over that person. I know of what I'm talking about.
However, Tony Hinchcliffe's joke was based in a hard truth,
Yeah.
as Puerto Rico has had a long-standing issue with waste disposal. Trash crisis
that is
leaves
true.
Puerto Rico near the brink. Most of Puerto Rico's landfills fail to meet federal standards and are almost full. Residents and experts worry that trash will soon overwhelm the region.
Oh,
Its
shit.
landfills island littered with trash. How Hurricane Maria highlighted Puerto Rico's poor waste management.
Well, that is true. Like I remember hearing about like garbage and waste and like sewage issues and sanitation issues with Hurricane Maria.
Disaster debris is pushing Puerto Rico's landfills to the brink.
Here's where that joke comes from. Tony is actually obsessed with the Pacific Garbage Patch, and like the fact that we just throw, like we were talking about, like recycling. Like recycling doesn't work; they don't do it. So there's a landfill in Puerto Rico that's way overflowed. Puerto Rico has a legitimate trash problem. Their landfills are way over capacity. So
Yes, exactly. Yes, the disaster debris, and then we do actually have that garbage island.
The garbage island is the Pacific.
Yeah, but that's what Joe Rogan was just referencing. Yeah.
that's where the joke came from.
Right.
Like the joke came from like Tony being environmentally conscious.
It was.
But then again, every time any conservative comes out with a shit joke, instead of the Libby's going, that was a shit joke, they do this shit.
Yeah. Instead of going, that was a stupid joke, they're like, oh my god, he hates Puerto Ricans and so does Trump.
Well, to be honest, Tony doesn't like Puerto Ricans. But
No, but you know what I'm trying to say.
to understand the stand-up world, also to understand the joke about Puerto Ricans. It all goes back to Jean Monnet. Who's responsible for Jean Monnet?
Some Puerto Rican guy.
But instead of putting the joke in its proper context, the media chose to blow things out of proportion with absolute impunity.
There is fresh backlash against Trump's rally in New York City on Sunday. The rally featured a comedian who repeatedly
Comedian. Listen to how they say that.
insulted Puerto Rico and today is refusing to apologize. Puerto Rico is an American island. Let me say that again. Puerto Ricans are American citizens, and the island is a U.S. territory. And there
Yes. And so is Guam. And so is like what do you want? What does that matter? Yes, it's a U.S. territory. The Yukon and Nunavut and the Northwest.
American citizens, but they sure don't think they are.
Nope. They have their own flag.
That's basically a state flag. See, okay, it's a U.S. territory, much the same that Turks and Caicos is a Canadian territory. They're their own country. They have their own government. However, they're still kind of controlled and oversighted by the parent nation.
Yeah.
When in reality, Puerto Rico really should be its own country, and that's why it's going to shit. Is because they're just being nothing but free handouts. I still remember a few years ago there was a Pacific hurricane in which a whole bunch of shit got left on the tarmac, and the Americans got blamed for it. I think Bush got blamed for it. But yeah, it was like cases of water and shit.
That was Maria.
That was Maria?
That was Trump got blamed for that.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So see what I mean? So that might also be the Puerto Rico reference that Hinchcliffe is aiming at that nobody's recognizing. So you have to realize you're dealing with a 4-year gap between his offices, which I think this has only happened once before, if ever. I know it was theoretical, but I just can't remember. I want to say there was one, like James Madison, I think, was the same kind of a thing, but I'm probably wrong. I don't know. Wizard of CW can probably correct me.
The actual island in the Atlantic that is floating trash is France.
about 1 million Puerto Ricans living in battleground states where both candidates are vying for the Latino vote.
The righteous indignation tells you everything you need to know about media bias against Donald Trump.
And former President Donald Trump, and the fallout tonight, the backlash over racist and sexist comments and jokes about Latinos and Puerto Ricans delivered at Trump's major rally at Madison Square Garden in New York. Some of the speakers invited by the campaign to speak before the former president who made immediate headlines, including this comedian and what was said about Latinos and Puerto Ricans, some of it too profane to play on TV.
Too profane! It's too profane! I can't let you hear it. Your delicate ears will explode.
Oh, how convenient. We're not going to play the clip because it's too profane for viewers. You're just going to have to blindly trust us on that.
It's discouraging that so many people would gather and rally to hate speech.
Hate speech. That's hate speech now? Oh, okay.
In America, that it's discouraging and it hurts that people who have family in Puerto Rico, who are Puerto Rican Americans, who are American citizens, are hearing hate like that. It's discouraging.
But it wasn't about...
It's so discouraging. Oh, so discouraging. The rallies of hate.
It was about the island. It's like making a joke about New Jersey.
Yeah.
The pearl clutching
it's
here is
literally
just
like making
off
a
the
joke
charts.
About New Jersey,
So
except
just
the people in New Jersey are strangely a lot. Yeah.
2 days later, Joe Biden was giving remarks via Zoom to
boy.
Voto Latino.
Remarks via Zoom.
Days later, Joe Biden was giving remarks via Zoom to Voto Latino, self-described as the nation's premier Latinx voter registration organization.
Latinx voter registration organization, huh? If I were a Latino and something called itself the Latinx anything, I would not use it. There was no profanity. No, there wasn't. You're lurking. You're waiting for AC repair people. Oh, fun.
And that call was a disaster, even by normal Joe Biden standards.
Oh, really?
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know.
I don't know the Puerto Ricans that I know.
Puerto Rico's rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know.
Holy shit! What the fuck? That's too funny. I don't know the Puerto Ricans that I know.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good.
Wait.
I know. Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware.
That's not the Puerto Rico from my state of Delaware. No, you're right, it's not. Because Puerto Rico is not Delaware.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Well, that escalated quickly, huh?
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Oh! The garbage keeps following him. Oh my lord. That was horrible.
Well, that escalated quickly, huh? The backlash on social media was immediate, and the clip was viewed tens of millions of times just within a couple hours.
So yeah, apparently Trump supporters are garbage because Tony Hinchcliffe told one joke about Puerto Rico. All right then.
Which forced Joe Biden's staff to go into damage control mode. White House Senior Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates posted on X that Joe Biden referred to the hateful rhetoric at the Madison Square Garden rally as garbage.
No, he did not. He said the only garbage I see out there are his supporters.
And posted a transcript claiming that Biden didn't say his supporters, but said his supporters with an apostrophe. But the problem is that video exists. And
the only Latinos that I've heard that like to use Latinx are those who barely speak Spanish.
Gaslighting isn't going to work this time. So Biden's staff took the next step and forced Joe Biden to post the following on X. Earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say.
That's insane. They actually made him say this
Comments at that rally don't reflect who we are as a nation. But Tony Hinchcliffe didn't demonize Latinos.
No.
He made a joke about Puerto Rico's crumbling waste management. Democrats have no sense of humor.
No, they don't. It's been proven that Democrats have no sense of humor. It's very, very obvious. They've never had a sense of humor. It's funny because the left used to be, free speech. Comedy is just comedy. You don't need to like come down on people for telling jokes. But now it's like jokes are horrible.
Puerto Rico's crumbling waste management. Democrats have no sense of humor or decency. Joe Biden is not the Democratic nominee. Kamala Harris is. So Ben Rhodes, a former speechwriter for Barack Obama, is trying to downplay Biden's remarks. I mean, who cares? Biden's not the one running for president.
Wow. Is that really what they're going with? Biden's not the president, Biden's not running for president anymore, so it doesn't matter what he says.
Of course, by Ben Rhodes' standard, Tony Hinchcliffe is a comedian who isn't running for anything. So the question is, why is a comedian being held to a higher standard than the sitting president of the United States? Why is the media more upset about a joke than they are about the leader of the free world calling half the country garbage?
Because the leader of the free world is a very sick, senile old man, and he doesn't know what he's saying, and Kamala has swooped in to take over for what he's doing.
The answer? You know why.
Yeah.
It's different when Democrats do it. The media is so biased that they immediately and desperately tried to make excuses for President Biden. The Washington Post wrote, "Did Biden call Trump supporters garbage? It comes down to an apostrophe," and added, "Biden's defense is entirely plausible."
Oh my god, they're putting the apostrophe after the S? Oh.
But at the same time, I haven't seen a single published article in the Washington Post that gives any context to Tony Hinchcliffe's joke. Puerto Rico's very real trash problem. But just remember, folks, democracy dies in darkness, or something. So while Joe Biden was speaking to Voto Latino, Kamala Harris was holding her closing argument event at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C.
The closing argument event. Isn't that where Beyonce was supposed to show up? Or no, that was in Austin, right?
Unfortunately for Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's garbage remark overshadowed the biggest and most important speech of Kamala's political career.
Ruh-roh.
Womp womp.
Have you spoken to President Biden since his comment last night about garbage?
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
So
Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. That is... So first of all, you're gonna throw Joe Biden under the bus, which is something you're very good at doing. And then you're going to be like, you're gonna straight up lie and be like, I don't agree with shitting on people based on who they vote for. Oh, that's a bunch of lies.
The media was demanding that Trump and the Trump campaign disavowed Tony Hinchcliffe's racist joke. The media was oddly quiet when it came to demanding that Kamala Harris do the same with Joe Biden's remarks. I know you're shocked.
Oh,
But
very.
Kamala Harris had the perfect opportunity to differentiate herself from Joe Biden and could have said, I certainly don't agree with the president's words. I will be a president for all Americans.
Yeah, that's what she should have said. That's what she's been running on. I'll be a president for all Americans. I'll do, the things that every American needs, regardless of who they vote for, blah, blah, blah. She should have run with that.
But instead...
Do you sympathise with any voters who do feel offended by or insulted by the garbage comments?
I am running for president of the United States. I will be traveling to 3 states today.
Kamala Harris is a walking, talking non-answer.
What the fuck does that have to do with the question? Do you feel sympathy for any voters who feel offended? I'm going to be traveling to 3 states today, and I'm running for president. Yes, we know that.
And speaking of completely unskilled...
Just an update. They have done 4 blocks.
Holy shit. Are they running?
No. They went down Leo, up J, then up E, and then down P, and then up M, and they're across the street. And I told them, okay, fine, go down J all the way down to the bottom then.
Holy shit. Those children are going to have an insane amount of candy.
People, here's White House press secretary and self-proclaimed historical figure, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Why is he using that kind of rhetoric? How is that presidential?
Just to clarify, he was not calling Trump supporters garbage,
yes,
which is why he put out. This is why he wanted to make sure that we put out a statement that clarified what he meant and what he was trying to say.
Oh my God. How stupid do they think the voting public is? Like, honestly, like, I know they think that they're stupid, but just how stupid do they actually think the voting public is?
There has not been a president in all of American history whose staff has been forced to...
Yeah.
How is that not saying the words, supporters are garbage?
It is. There's no other way that it can be.
Use the excuse, what he meant to say was, more than Joe Biden says.
So, look, the president wanted to clarify because he understood that what he may have said he understood that what he was saying was being taken out of context.
Oh, did he? He understood it as he said it. He had that kind of forethought that he's like, what I'm saying is going to be taken out of context. That's bullshit.
Of context. They really think you're that stupid.
And I would say I think it's really important that you have a president that cares about clarifying what they said.
Oh!
And that's what you see from this president.
Oh, is it? He cares about clarifying what he said. Oh, I see. I didn't realize that's what he
took
was
it
doing.
upon himself to clarify what he said. And I think that says a lot about who Joe Biden is, that he wanted to make sure.
Why is she tapping the microphone as she states that?
Took it upon himself what they said. And that's what you see from this president. He took it upon himself to clarify what he said.
Why? She's like, as she's talking.
And I think that says a lot about who Joe
Really
Biden
weird.
is, that he wanted to make sure it was clear.
Actually, wouldn't it be better if we had a president who didn't have to clarify everything he says?
Yeah. It would. It absolutely would be very valuable if both countries had leaders that meant what they said and said what they meant.
Just saying.
And the vice president did say today she strongly disagrees with anybody who offers criticism of people based on who they vote for and why they vote for them. Does the president view that differently?
Yes, he feels the same way. He feels the same way as what she stated. But
Oh,
that's
does
something
he?
that the president has been saying for some time.
Oh, you mean the same Joe Biden who said that Make America Great Again was, quote, an extreme philosophy that was, quote, semi-fascism?
Yeah. Or if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black.
What do you mean by semi-fascism, sir?
In December, you will You know what I mean.
And remember that this was the man.
You know what I mean. Oh my.
Just 2 years ago, gave a primetime address.
Yes?
You know his little friend, right, at the haunted house? She's dressed as a Hufflepuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
But except she's by herself wandering. I'm like, go find him.
In front of a blood red background, complete with 2 members of the military behind him, and called half the country extremists who were a clear and present danger to our democracy.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans are a clear and present danger to our democracy. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy.
And remember how
the MAGA Republicans, I love that.
He once reacted to a protester.
We remain in the battle for the soul of America. By the way, all right, God love you. Let him go. In the battle for the soul of America. By the way, all right, God love you.
All right, God love you. God love you.
We have to be stronger and more determined and more committed to saving American democracy than the MAGA Republicans.
First load from the Dragon. Their first trip.
Oh, wow.
So I just said, take empty bags now. Leave these ones in empty bags. You got enough.
That guy Alcantara are destroying democracy.
So I'm gonna guess that when he called Trump supporters garbage, that he meant every word of it.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way Joe Biden did not mean that Trump supporters are garbage. There's absolutely no way that when he said the only garbage I see are his supporters, that he did not mean that. There's absolutely no goddamn way. It's just obvious. It's just obvious. And it's gonna be really interesting next Tuesday to see what happens when it comes to voting and when it comes to who's gonna be the president next Wednesday morning. Or, well, in January when the inauguration happens. But you know what I mean. Now, before we get into our political stuff in Canada, we're gonna look at this video that I'm really probably gonna wish that I had wine for, but that's fine. Oh! We have a follower, I believe. Hello for the follow. Or hello and thank you for the follow. Welcome to the show. Let's see. So I have this video from Shoe on Head called The Man Problem. Why are men moving right? So let's take a look and see what ridiculousness she is going to talk about. And we're going to put this on 1 1/4 speed. Because I do not want to sit through 28 minutes of this on normal speed. Okay.
Hello everyone, and happy 1-year anniversary to my male loneliness epidemic video.
Which I also covered and got very angry with. I added jiggle physics. Yes, I did.
I'm happy to announce that since that video uploaded, the discourse has greatly improved. People all around the world are taking men's issues more seriously, and the gender war has finally come to an end. Just kidding, everything has gotten worse and nobody has learned anything. From the witches on The View cackling about how men are useless.
Do we need men?
Men are useless.
To women online saying they'd rather be stranded in the woods with a bear than a man.
Yeah, well, that's because those women are stupid.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
The bear. It seems that things have gotten more toxic than ever, and the gender divide couldn't be any wider, especially politically.
In 2008, 58% of young people leaned Democratic. 2012, 53%. And in the last 2 major election years, that percentage held steady at 55%. But in 2023, that number dipped below 50% for the first time since 2005. And you'll notice right here, they've started to lean more Republican. And that's partly because of one specific group, young men.
How many of these people are polled? Did you poll the entire adult population of the United States? Is that what this poll reflects, Shu? What's the demographics here?
Okay, I know I said I was going to focus on the gender war and not talk about politics for a while. However, I found a loophole. Politics is talking about gender war. With this election being hailed by the media as the man versus woman election, according to any and all data coming out recently, men all around the world have shifted more right and women have shifted more left. But
are we sure about that? 'Cause again, I don't know what data you're pulling from. Like, what?
Women going more left was not the focus of this month's outrage. The outrage, of course, was about men. That's right, we were left recently. Men all around the world have shifted more right, and women have shifted more left. And war. With this election being hailed by the media as the man versus woman election, according to any and all data coming out recently, men all around the world.
According to any and all data coming out recently. I just backed it up. I just backed it up to hear it again. She just said it. According to any and all data coming out recently.
Have shifted more right, and women have shifted more left. But women...
What are the sources? What polls? What fucking studies? Cite them!
Going more left was not the focus of this month's outrage. The outrage, of course, was about men. That's right, we got our yearly, oh no, what is happening to men? Why are they moving to the right freak out? But unlike last year, this freak out isn't solely happening on the internet, no. It's also happening in Washington, D.C.
There are only 46 days until Election Day, and the Harris-Walz campaign is struggling to appeal to a group of voters that could determine the outcome of the election, and that is men.
Men! Men are evil, and they're gonna determine the outcome of the election. Oh. Man versus woman again, you mean? Right? Isn't it always man versus woman?
The Harris campaign is making an aggressive last-minute effort to win over younger male voters.
Am I really going to make a video criticizing the Democrat Party days before the election? Of course I am. Now,
oh, shoot, don't. Just don't.
Before you celebrate or grab your pitchforks, this is not a pro-Trump video. This is a do-better video. This is a mommy's not mad, she's disappointed video. Actually, I lied. Mommy's pretty mad. In this video, I'm...
Yeah. No, it did not.
Going to be addressing the Democrats' so-called man problem, the recent discourse about men moving right, the last-minute pandering the Democratic Party is doing to get them back, what they could be doing instead, and of course going over some terrible opinions. Not my opinions. I have never had a bad opinion in my life.
Stop calling yourself that, June.
Except that one opinion. We don't talk about that one opinion. In a world where it seems like
we don't talk about that one
over some terrible opinions he is doing to get them they could be doing instead, and of course going over some terrible opinions. Not my opinions. I have never had a bad opinion in my life. Except that one opinion. We don't talk about that one opinion.
Is that what is I'm trying to figure out what she just meant by that. We don't talk about that one opinion.
World where it seems like everything men do and like is toxic, from eating meat to working out to even having a beard. Oh wait, that reminds me. Before we get into this video, let's quickly give a shout out to today's video sponsor.
It's a bad one.
Henson Shaving. If you've used a multi-blade razor, old blade partnered with a metal have been more silky and smoother than to the ongoing cost of buying those expensive. Now, let's get back to the video. If you are a regular viewer to the Shoe on Head channel, first of all, I'm sorry. But also, you know by
Oh, well, thank you for apologizing.
Now, I have been documenting the internet and society in general's growing and widely accepted hatred of men. This has been happening for a very long time. And if you dare spoke up about it, you were called an incel or a pick-me, depending on your gender. But
well, no, you weren't called a pick-me all the time if you talked about men's rights. It's just if you did it in a specific way, like you and Pearl. That's all.
Seemingly, almost out of nowhere, there has been a change of heart.
I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways, but I think we need to have a real conversation about that.
Wow, that's interesting. Mainstream media talking about this? I wonder why they care so much now. Democrats fear Harris losing too many male voters to Trump. Oh. Signs have been mounting that, for the first time in recent decades, Democrats may lose majority support from young men in 2024.
You mean, okay. They don't understand just how many young women they've lost, too, do they? They also don't understand how many millennial women they've lost, do they? Or does that not count? Or do they not count? Do millennial women just not count anymore? Or, millennials in general? Do they just not fucking count? Does it just matter about young people?
Risk to
Gen Z?
Is that this is not just a one-time fluke, but an indication of growing trouble with men in coming elections. Democrats can celebrate the support they are getting from young women, but they also need to take the disaffection of young men seriously, engage them directly, and respond to the visions of manhood and masculinity that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are offering. All right.
The visions of manhood and masculinity that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are offering? What visions of manhood are they offering? They're just offering visions of a different country and political policy. What does that have to do with manhood?
All right, Kamala, you got 2 weeks to reverse anti-male propaganda and resentment fueled by our government, media, and institutions. How are you gonna do it? Harris campaign creating space for white dudes. Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, a little too late, but I'm glad you're finally doing to be honest about role in history. Oh. It's always a space for white men to talk about how much they suck.
What made you start this group, White Dudes for Harris? And I suspect some of it has to do with the polling.
Yeah, for far too long, the left has essentially ceded white men to the MAGA right. There's
wow. The left has ceded white men to the MAGA right. Okay, then. I didn't know that thinking the Make America Great Again means automatically okay.
Large parts of the left who have gone out of their way to alienate white men over the last couple of years. And that's understandable in many ways. We decided that we wanted to create space for white men to be a part of electing Vice President Harris.
At the top, is this guy gay? He sounds very gay.
I don't know. You questioned my gaydar yesterday, so I don't know.
Because you thought... Anyway, you thought Caleb Hammer was gay.
I think he is.
The call, White Dudes for Harris organizer Ross Morales Roquito said he wanted to address what he called the elephant in the room, criticism surrounding an event organized for white men given the country's history of racism. A lot of people felt uncomfortable about the call, he said. Throughout American history, when white men organized, it was often with pointy hats on.
Oh, what the fuck? Yeah, because the only time that white men got together was for the KKK. That's it. They didn't organize for any other reason. It wasn't a bunch of white men that were part of the abolition movement. No.
Wait, what does that make the freaking, what are they called? The Masons?
Yeah, the Masons.
Started by black men?
The
Can't even have their gay little Zoom call where they circle jerk about hating themselves without their own movement going, yikes! A bunch of white males in one space? Seems kind of like the KKK. Black people can have their little groups and that's fine, but if a bunch of white people get together, well, that's just called BreadTube. Never mind. White Dudes for Harris. I mean, she's doing pretty bad with Latinos, too. What's next? Hombres con Harris?
Are you laughing at your own joke? Please don't do that.
Oh, So basically, men are leaving the Democratic Party in droves, and it's not looking too good for the Democrats. So it wasn't long until everyone's favorite discourse hit Twitter again. If Kamala loses, which is very possible, there needs to be a real discussion about how Democrats speak to and reach young men. If Kamala loses.
Yeah, no, when?
If she wins, there doesn't have to be discussion. We shouldn't change anything. Clearly, we're doing everything right. To be clear, I'm not saying we need to worry about women less or change any positions. I'm saying the polling around young men is concerning, and if it turns out to be true, we need to have a discussion about how condescending we are coming off to a huge part of the electorate.
Oh, do you? Oh, you do, huh? You need to have a conversation about how condescending...
To be clear, I'm not saying we have to change anything. I'm just wondering why men aren't voting for us. What? I am gonna regret posting this so hard. And oh boy did he, the replies were insane, to say the least. I must admit, I cringed reading most of this. I feel that one thing you didn't address is the systemic entitlement bestowed upon white men in the US. That sense of entitlement, that privilege they felt for eternity, is eroding. Systemic entitlement they have felt for eternity? They're like 22 years old. The f*** do you mean eternity? Who is this like 200-year-old man? So young men are snowflakes with hurt fifis because they're not the center of attention anymore. Got it. So are they poor little snowflakes, boo-hoo, or are they scary fascists that are gonna turn America into the Handmaid's Tale? Because they—
Yes, they're both. Don't you want, like, how can you have been doing this for so long and not be pointing out that these people think both ways at the same time?
They can't be both. You either care about the future or you don't. You cannot simultaneously hand wave away men moving.
Simultaneously.
It can't be both. You either care about the future or you don't. You cannot simultaneously hand wave away.
No. Simultaneously, not simultaneously.
Men moving to fascism, but also fearmonger about it. Hi, man here. Maybe men just need to stop being—
Oh, let's see. We have another bling. Lazarus, thank you for the follow. I wonder if I'll hit 500 followers on Twitch today.
It seems like the easiest thing to do, right? I don't feel alienated or uncomfortable with democratic messaging because I'm not a complete wannabe fascist cheese-dick incel loser who thinks he's the good guy. Reddit and its consequences have been a disaster for the male race. They just need to get off their asses, stop playing video games, and get real jobs. First of all, what real jobs? These guys are coming out of college with useless diplomas, and there are no jobs. Also, what an out-of-touch—
What do you mean there are no jobs? There are lots of jobs. Why does she say stupid things like that? It's just ignorant.
Boomer ass take. Get off your ass and stop playing those video games from the generation who watches TV 24/7. I don't want to hear it. Tell them to get therapy. Tell them whatever you told or gave to women in the 1950s. They made this bed, let them sleep alone in it. Or be f***ing better men. Any other group of people and it's, oh, boo-hoo, poor baby. Let me rewire all of society so your feelings aren't hurt. And then with men, it's get therapy.
See, she sounds so righteously indignant, but she's not, what's it called? She sounds so indignant about this, but she's not, like, offering any solutions. I'm finding Shu's videos to be just like, this is what's happening and I'm just gonna bitch about it, instead of like, this is what's happening, I'm upset about it, and here's my solution. Like, that's what I try to do with the videos that I make.
Even better. While there is truth and messaging needs to be better from Democrats as a whole, I reject that telling young men they need to be better is the problem. They are trash in their nature, and if they can't do the work to not be toxic waste of seed, that's on them. Vote for my team, by the way. We may not want to hear it, but this is what the data reflects. There is a massive loneliness epidemic in this country, which is disproportionately affecting men. Instead of calling them incels or mocking them, we should be willing to hear out their concerns. Wow, a surprisingly good tweet in a sea of bullshit. That's nice to see. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming you're a straight white man, so yeah, go do something about it. Why are you guys bothering the rest of us with this? I can't figure it out. Because I would like for Democrats to win the election. Why do you care about men suffering? Because they want to win the election. Amazing. amazing. This is the issue right here. Start
Apparently
seeing men
the
as people,
sky
not
opened up.
numbers in polls. That is step one. You can't even do step one. Anyway, there were thousands of these kind of tweets in response to this guy.
Listen to how angry Shu gets, but she doesn't have any, like... She doesn't have any, like, ideas.
You get it. We've seen it all before. If I went through all of them, this video would be 3 hours long. White Dudes for Harris wasn't the only strange attempt the Democrats threw out at the last second to get the male vote.
Hey, white dudes. So I think we're all pretty sick of hearing how much we suck. Every time you go online, it's the same story. We're the problem. And yeah, some white dudes
the hell
are.
is
Trump
this?
and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse.
Oh, fuck off. Trump and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse. This is insane. This is... And is Shu gonna have any solutions to this?
Are you kidding me? Years of these people saying men suck and are the problem, and now they're like, hey fellow men, are you sick of being told you suck and are the problem? The audacity! Apparently, Kamala Harris has a secret weapon to win over male voters.
Kamala Harris is turning to her running mate, Tim Walz, hoping he is the secret weapon who can chip away at Donald Trump's support.
Oh yeah, Tim Walz, huh? Tim Walz is gonna be the guy that's helping with this.
Men.
Much like how Trump chose Pence to win over the more establishment Republican voters, Kamala seems to have chosen Tim Walz to try and win over the white male vote. And boy, are they trying. Now, I don't hate Tim Walz. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised when they chose him over Josh Shapiro. I like a lot of his policies, like his universal school lunch policy. That's an—
Oh my god, Shu, why would you want a universal school lunch policy? Why do people want fucking... Oh my god, why can't we just make it so groceries cost less so that kids can have properly packed lunches from home? Why do we need school food programs? Why?
amazing policy. You'd have to be an insane freak to disagree with that, or a libertarian. But I repeat myself. And there were a few times where he was speaking where I completely forgot he was running to be Kamala's VP and not president himself. And he actually brought a lot of energy to the Democratic stage for once. So what the f was this? Putting out a bunch of ads of Tim Walz changing the air filter in a car, clumsily shooting a gun, and drawing a political football play-by-play. Trotting out Walz like some kind of minstrel show of a white man. So what the f was this? Putting out a bunch of ads of Tim Walz changing the air filter in a car, clumsily shooting a gun, and drawing a political football play-by-play. Trotting out Walz like some kind of minstrel show of a white man.
Okay, isn't that like, isn't that a little on the nose there, Shu, considering that minstrel shows were white men in blackface?
Like a man dressing up like a man for Halloween. You don't gotta do all this, bro, I promise you. And they don't shy away about how that's exactly what they are trying to do. Tim Walz is clearly a Midwest man's man, but he's the antidote to toxic MAGA masculinity. Despite his typically masculine resume as a Midwestern football coach and veteran, Walz is utilizing those qualities.
Ooh, thank you.
To push forward a more progressive, compassion-based form of masculinity. Part of being a vice president is understanding that you are just that, someone who is there to aid and support the president. Walz simply being there on the ticket with a woman and taking a back seat to his running mate, Vice President Kamala Harris, is him embracing his leadership role in a positive, masculine way. Football coach and cheerleader, how Tim Walz is defining masculinity. Amy Deal, a sexism researcher and author of the 2023 book Glass Walls, told USA Today that men like Walz who are intentional about rejecting traits and beliefs commonly dubbed as toxic masculinity are the tonic to harmful stigma associated with expectations of men and boys.
So a man who stands back, doesn't do anything, Sorry, what did Spittlebuggy say? Walz wants to transition children without parents' involvement. Ugh.
Shows you can be masculine, but also not threatened by women as equals or women who are in positions of power. In fact, you can be cheerleaders for them. Notice the common theme here. Taking a back seat. Cheerleading. Like 5 different articles I read specifically—
Yeah, taking a back seat. Cheerleading. Things that are not usually masculine.
use this word cheerleading. Even a few about Kamala Harris's husband, Doug. God knows we need an antidote for all the lousy men in the news, and I think I found one. A lovable goofball who is happy to cheerlead for his wife, the Vice President of the US. Thank God for Doug Emhoff. Successful guys can support their wives and be respected. You don't have to be the quarterback to play the game at an elite level. Emhoff and his breed of dudes who are giving it their best shot may never be as come hither to lost young men as the militant Andrew Tate models of manhood, but they are out there, and, not unlike good husbands, will appear when they are needed. From the outside looking in, the right promises young men a return to the good times, of the glorious past. You know, the one your grandfather had. The Coca-Cola ad rose-tinted version of the past. Back when you can afford a house and support a family on one income. While the left, which historically, in my opinion, had the policies to make that happen, are instead trying to sell men a vision of the future. And
yeah, and that's not a, it's a dystopian future. That's what it is. It's a dystopian future, and nobody wants it.
well, the future is female. A future where you're no longer playing the game, men. You're on the sidelines being a cheerleader. Doesn't that just sound so exciting? Like, what the hell is going on inside these DNC consultant meetings? I really gotta know. Does anyone have any ideas on how to appeal to young men? And please, for the love of God, do not say we have to offer them anything or change in any way. I got it. What? Camo hats. We did that. Vasectomy bus. We did that. Have you perhaps tried nagging them? Yes, we've been doing that. Say, you know that whole male loneliness epidemic thing? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Oh yeah.
It's a really nice place. Have you been here before?
Yeah.
This is just boring. Shu has really fallen off. Like, this is not a video essay. This is a 28-minute ramble. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't even know if we should finish this. We'll go a couple more minutes and then...
I bring everybody here. I said not go on a lot of dates, but...
Hey men, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, women won't fuck you. Brilliant. Young men should know that if you vote for Trump, you're basically never going to get laid. I mean, is it incorrect? Don't think so. Trump gives girls the ick. Vote Harris, get laid.
Wow.
They are not beating the pretending to be progressive to get laid allegations with this one. Literally just endorsing woke fishing. When men pretend to be more progressive on dating apps to get laid. Do not do this, by the way. Be open and honest about your opinions. And no, you cannot fix them. Also, pretty weird and like low-key sexist to imply like women are some prize for voting the correct way.
I don't even know what I'm listening to. Shu makes Trump looks like he keeps on track. He does. Like, would anybody be upset if we didn't finish this video? There is 10 minutes left of this video, and I don't... there's 10 minutes left. And I don't think that she's gonna make any, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think there's gonna be anything that she's gonna say. Kamala and her campaign is boring too. Not upset. Yeah, I'm thinking we're gonna switch gears here. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and then I'm going to do question period. So I'll be right back. Share the stream while I'm gone, and then we'll get into question period. Okay. You keep imagining my zipper much lower. You're naughty. You are a naughty person. All right. I've got my question period pulled up. And I think we have the same French translator as yesterday, which is good because he was great. Let's take a look here. Let's jump into our question period.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yay!
Unfortunately, Statistics Canada has revealed today that economic growth in Canada in the third quarter was at just 1%, a weak 1%, a third
shit.
lower than expected, 2/3 lower than in the United States. Our per capita GDP has gone down for the last 8 quarters out of 9. And it's going down more quickly than in any other G7 country. Is this not the proof that doubling the debt and increasing taxes on capital gains is destroying our economy?
Is the Prime Minister here?
The Honourable Minister of Public Works and Procurement.
Oh, it doesn't look like Trudeau's here today. Who is surprised? I'm not surprised.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader is looking for good news. Well, interest rates are down. Inflation is down. Unemployment is down. But it's Halloween, Mr. Speaker, and there's one thing that scares kids. It's that the Conservative leader refuses to get his security clearance.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? It's Halloween, and the one thing that scares kids is that Poilievre doesn't want us to get his security clearance? What the
That was a tangent.
Right? What the
To protect Canadians and members of his caucus. When's he going to answer the question and protect? It's a question that all kids are asking today.
Translator has the best cadence I've heard. There's even inflection. It's nice. I know.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. What's scaring people is that their paychecks are getting smaller, Mr. Speaker, every year. And that paycheck can't buy a house because this government doubled the cost of housing. That minister, he's been trying to find affordable housing in his city, and he hasn't been able to after 9 years. This government doubled the cost of housing. That minister, he's been trying to find affordable housing in his city, and he hasn't been able to after 9 years of this Liberal government, which has doubled the cost, despite the fact that in my time, we built 180,000 new affordable homes, and now we're proposing to cut the GST on new homes. Will he accept my common sense plan?
I like this translator. This translator is great.
He actually uses the voice inflections.
Yeah. I'm loving this guy. He needs to stay all the time.
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, kids in my riding are smarter than the Conservative leader thinks. They know how to count up to 6, and it's...
Oh my lord. Yes, he only built 6 ghettos. That should be a good thing. You don't want ghettos.
Indeed, 6 affordable housing units that the Conservative leader built. Not in my riding, but in all of Canada throughout his entire mandate when he was in charge of housing at the time. But
is your inflation cumulative like in the USA? So just because it's down, there's still inflation from last month that's still present? Yes.
Canadian kids need to know if they should be scared of him. He's not getting a security clearance.
Should I be scared of Mr. Poilievre? Yes, dear. If you don't finish your dinner, Poilievre will come and take you away.
Protect his own MPs.
What the
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Statistics Canada reported terrible news for the Canadian economy today. It grew at a meager 1%, a third lower than
You heard it right. You heard it right. Kids need to be scared of Mr. Polyev. Because Mr. Polyev is the boogeyman.
And lower than our population grew. In fact, it was the 8th out of the last 9th economic quarter where our per capita GDP shrunk. It's fallen more than any other G7 country since the year before COVID. This is the direct result of higher taxes on capital gains, on energy, on work. Why won't they accept our common sense plan? Better yet, why don't they call a carbon tax election so we can fix the economy?
Look, see, he's asking like calm questions. And they're like, children need to know that they shouldn't be scared of Polyev.
The Honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
I know the leader of the official opposition doesn't like facts getting in the way of his good Halloween story, but here...
What the fuck are you talking about his good Halloween story? He's been telling the same thing for a year, and it's not a story, and he has facts from Stats Canada and all over the place. What the fuck are you talking about?
The facts, Mr. Speaker, 1.6% inflation. The Bank of Canada Governor...
Colleagues, it's important for those, of course, to be able to follow and for the chair to be able to follow what's being said.
Oh, yes, it's so hard to follow what's being said. Yes, yes.
Having difficulty hearing this. I know people who are using the translation devices are also having difficulty. The Honourable Minister of Employment and Workforce Development from the top, please.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. There is a lot of chocolate being consumed on the other side. I can see how energized the Conservatives are.
Oh my God.
Because we're sharing the facts.
Are you... Wow. First of all. Wow. With the childishness.
What is up with these idiots?
I don't know. I think all of them can... I think they all had a little bit of Adderall today. Like, everybody on the Liberal Party's side had a bunch of Adderall.
1.6% inflation in this country. Interest rates are down. 47,000 new jobs in the last month.
Yeah, and by the way, I did some looking into that number. About 65% of those jobs that are supposed to be new were part-time positions that were switched to full-time positions. So they weren't new. They were just shifted.
The International Monetary Fund has Canada positioned as the fastest growing economy in the G7 in 2025. What else, Mr. Speaker? We're going to keep supporting Canadians. We're going to build houses from coast to coast. The Conservatives don't need to like it, but that's how we're supporting Canadians each and every day.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the American economy is roaring while the Canadian economy is snoring.
And the economy of the U.S. is roaring partially because of Canadian dollars.
In the most recently reported economic quarter, U.S. GDP grew 3 times faster than Canadian, despite our out-of-control population growth. In fact, per-person income is now lower than it was 10 years ago in Canada, while it's gone up 18% in the U.S. The gap between U.S. and Canadian incomes is worse than at any time in the last century. Why would they call a carbon tax election so Canadians can vote for powerful paychecks that buy affordable homes on safe streets?
The Honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, it's quite surprising that the Leader of the Opposition isn't taking the bare facts on board, but quite frankly, not just 1.6 inflation or 47,000 jobs. Let's go to what he's trying to distract Canadians from, which as Leader of the Official Opposition, as somebody who someday wants to sit on this side of the House, will simply not go and do the work to get his security clearance. He will not protect his MPs. He will not protect Canadians.
Answer the question that was asked of you. It has nothing, security clearance has nothing to do with what he's talking about.
Shame on him, Mr. Speaker. Get his security clearance.
Angry little man,
The Honourable Leader
angry.
of the Opposition.
Canada is collapsing a per-person economy. It means lower wages, which means that Canadians can afford less food, less housing, and governments can afford less for schools and hospitals. It's the direct result. These are first economic data points that have come out since they jacked up the capital gains tax, and now driving billions of dollars south.
What? I don't know.
South of the border. Why don't they follow our common sense plan to axe taxes? In fact, in addition to getting rid of the carbon tax, why not follow our plan to axe the GST on new homes to build 30,000 more per year? It's common sense. Let's bring it.
Yes, 30,000 per year is a lot more than zero.
The Honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, we can do the facts game all day long. Let's just focus. The Leader of the Opposition likes to remind people that he has roots in Alberta. So let's talk about the Liberal government's investments in Alberta, Mr. Speaker.
Like, you're
facts game all day long.
We can play the facts game all day long. Well, actually, no, you can't because you don't like facts.
Just focus. The Leader of the Opposition likes to remind people that he has roots in Alberta. So let's talk about the Liberal government's investments in Alberta, Mr. Speaker. $22 billion in clean energy investments for clean electricity, for hydrogen, for greening the grid, for making sure that we have the greenest barrel of oil in the world, Mr. Speaker.
Greening the grid. I thought they didn't like slogans. Greening the grid is pretty slogan-y to me.
In the world for foreign direct investment, we are the #1 in the world per capita for foreign direct investment. They don't want to tell Canadians about it. We will, and we'll make sure there are good jobs from coast to
investment. Yes. More foreign people and more foreign investment in our country instead of like actual citizenry doing things. Yes.
Other Randy is ahead of you in Edmonton Center.
Let's hear that again.
Other Randy is ahead of you in Edmonton Center.
Colleagues.
Then I have
the Honourable Member for Salaberry-Surwa. The Liberals' decision to abandon seniors is heartless. Their insinuations suggesting that seniors are too rich to deserve a pension increase are deplorable.
Oh, uh-oh. We're using deplorable. At least we're talking about policies and not people this time.
There are retirees in Quebec who rely solely on their pension income. They don't have a rainy day fund to face rent increases. They don't have room in their budget to replace their old cars, even with a used one. They're putting food back on the shelves at the supermarket. Why would the Liberals rather risk an election than come to help seniors? The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Why the fuck is... That wasn't an immigration question. That was a seniors question.
Mr. Speaker, every time that we've put forward proposals to help seniors, the Bloc has voted against them. Even with dental care, where it's very, very popular in the members' riding. I heard the leader of the Bloc say that initiative is poison, and that's absolutely ridiculous. I would ask
it
the
is poison because it shouldn't be a fucking federal jurisdiction.
Bloc to, think more closely about what it's doing instead of just paving the way forward for the Leader of the Opposition. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-Surwa. The Quebec Lieutenant is against the pension increase of 10% because there are, among seniors aged 65 to 74, a few rich people like him who don't need it. But it's false. Rich people like him are seeing their pensions cut with clawbacks at tax time. But the 10% increase, they're still already giving it to everyone 75 and up. It's universal. If the Liberals think that it's fair as soon as you turn 75, well, it's also fair for seniors 74 and under.
Yeah.
So why are the Liberals treating 1 million Quebecers like second-class seniors?
In order to ordain and establish this classist system.
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The colleague is looking for problems with the Liberal approach. Now, since 2015, Mr. Speaker, we have been there to help seniors, and we have reduced senior poverty by about 20% through measures that the Bloc and the Conservatives have opposed. But now they're looking for friends, and I would like to warn them that having the Conservatives as a friend in the House of Commons, it's very dangerous for Quebecers. The Conservatives want to cut everything that's in place, including the Canada Dental Care Plan, which is helping 900,000.
Don't be friends with the Conservatives. The Conservatives are gonna cut everything. You don't do that.
Seniors,
to help stay with us.
Dental care right now.
We've done everything for you. Not.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
Right?
Mr. Speaker, thousands of renters are very worried their landlords could be using...
Which, the immigration guy?
YieldStar software to come to agreements between themselves to raise the cost of rent. In the United States, the FBI has launched an inquiry into that software. We know that YieldStar is used by major landlords in Canada, but the Liberals and the Conservatives are refusing to investigate this to protect profits of big landlords. Will the Liberals defend renters and launch an inquiry so that we can know if landlords are guilty of collusion to increase rent?
We have a rental bill of rights coming out. Blah, blah, blah.
The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. The pratique that
Why
he's...
is the Minister of Innovation answering a question about renting? It should be...
Describing is completely unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. Today, I will write to the Competition Board to ask that an inquiry be undertaken.
Why haven't you done that before?
Thanks to the new powers that we've given to the Competition Bureau, Mr. Speaker, we're going to shed light on this issue on this side of the House. We are always going to be on the sides of renters. We will always be on the side of consumers. We will always be on the side of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. This is a major issue, and we are going to defend Canadians.
The Honourable Member from Port Moody, Coquitlam.
This is always the way with the Liberals, Mr. Speaker. Behind the scenes, not transparent, gentlemen's agreements. Get it out in the open. Canadian renters are struggling with skyrocketing rents. Tenants are calling on this government to investigate the potential use of AI software by their corporate landlords to hike their rent. The same AI software is under investigation by the FBI in the United States. Yet the Liberals and the Conservatives have stood by greedy corporate landlords by refusing...
It was just a clogged port, so hopefully it works now. Oh, I hope so.
...to investigate. Will the Liberals support an investigation into the use of AI in rent fixing and protect Canadians from illegal rent gouging?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I wish the colleague just have heard my answer. We are going to launch an investigation.
I wish the colleague would have just heard my answer because I don't like to talk in English, Mr. Speaker. I am a dirty French fuck, Mr. Speaker, and I only like to speak in my native language, Mr. Speaker. Because even when people ask in French, Mr. Speaker, and we ask the same question in French and English, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to repeat myself, Mr. Speaker. Except when I say Mr. Speaker, because that is what I always do, Mr. Speaker.
I said, Mr. Speaker, it's completely unacceptable what we've seen. I'm going to be writing to the Competition Commissioner today to launch an investigation, but the NDP should celebrate what we've done because thanks to our party, Mr. Speaker, we have now powers within the Act in order to investigate. Mr. Speaker, we'll always be on the side of renters, we'll always be on the side of consumers, and we'll always be on the side of Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Except when they demand that we not make them or tax them into oblivion. Then screw them.
The Honourable Member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, more bad news from experts. New StatsCan data shows that per person GDP is shrinking again. For the 8th time in the last 9 quarters, Canadians are getting poorer. This is a made-in-Canada per capita recession that's lasted 2 years, caused by a government that's driven out investment by hiking taxes on everything: income, financial institutions, housing, fuel, and investment. The opposite is happening elsewhere. Yesterday, the U.S. Commerce Department said the U.S. economy grew at 2.8% last quarter. Will the government admit that this is a made-in-Canada per capita recession?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, it seems that Conservatives can't see past their own doomsday narrative.
Their own doomsday narrative? What the fuck? What are you talking about? This is people coming to their MPs talking about actual problems. What doomsday narrative?
Canada leads the G7 in reaching a soft landing in the global post-pandemic surge in inflation and highest interest rates.
A soft landing in the global post-pandemic surge of inflation. Well, that just sounds like a pile of bullshit.
First G7 country to cut interest rates not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in a row. This is good news for homeowners who currently have mortgages that need renewal, and for first-time home buyers. Inflation has fallen to 1.6% in September, marking 9 consecutive months within the Bank of Canada's target range. I count that as good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, here's another expert from the Bank of Canada, Deputy Governor Carolyn Rogers. On March 24th, she issued a stark warning. She said Canada is falling behind other countries because of weak business investment, a lack of competition, and a failure to integrate immigrants into the workforce, all responsibilities of this government. She said, and I quote, "I'm saying that it's an emergency. It's time to break the glass." Simple question. Does the government agree with the Bank of Canada that we are in an economic emergency of their making?
Yeah. Of course they don't agree. Because then they'd have to agree that they screwed up somewhere. Which they will never do. That's not gonna happen.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Canada Governor has also reported numerous times that our government has stuck to its fiscal guardrails, which through that...
It's fiscal guardrail. You've stuck to your fiscal guardrails. Is that why Chrystia Freeland blew $7 billion past her expected deficit?
Has allowed for inflation to drop in this country. The IMF also, in their World Economic Outlook, projects Canada to have the highest growth in the G7 in 2025. Wages in Canada have outpaced inflation for 20 months in a row. For Canadians, that means more jobs, better wages, and a higher living standard. We should be positive, and I will never...
In what alternate universe are these people living?
Never apologize for being positive about the future of this country.
Hear, hear! Hear, hear! That sounded like Karina.
The Honourable Member from Durham.
New data from StatsCan confirms a made-in-Canada GDP recession. Over 8 of the last 9 quarters...
Does anyone know what happened to that one guy's wife who just disappeared? Oh, JF? No. No, nobody knows what happened to JF's wife. She's still missing.
Capita GDP is in decline.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah. We'll look into it, but I haven't heard anything on whether she's been found or whether she's still missing. JF hasn't been popping his head up much.
To put that in practical terms, Mr. Speaker, the average American now earns $20,000 more than the average Canadian.
Yeah, and when Americans send over money up into Canada, it's like $10, $15 more conversion-wise.
The root cause is the Prime Minister's tax hikes. When will the Prime Minister axe the tax hikes that are making Canadians poorer?
Great question.
Never.
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell something that the Conservative, they want to acknowledge. The root cause of our success, Mr. Speaker, is our Canadian workers, Mr. Speaker. We have attracted record level of investment in this country. These people are reading, I don't know what. Talk to Volkswagen.
These people are writing or reading. I don't know what, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker. I am that upset and unglued, Mr. Speaker.
And talk to Honda, talk to Dow Chemical, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The Honourable Member from South Shore of St. Margaret's, please. I'm going to invite the Honourable Minister to start again. The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I will always stand up in this house to talk about good news about Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Then why do you sound so angry, Mr. Frenchman?
Exactly. Canadians should be cheering. This is the land of possibility, of opportunities. We have attracted record level of investment, Mr. Speaker, in this country. Just talk to the CEO of Honda, of Volkswagen, of Dow Chemical, of Nordville. People are investing in this country because they believe in our workers. We have the best workers in the world. We have the critical minerals. We have the energy. We have the access to
We have the critical minerals. Then why are we not fucking developing them? Why are we not mining them properly? Why are we not doing all we can to make ourselves a powerhouse?
We have what we need to win in the 21st century, Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
yes we do. But you and your government are not exploiting it. You ninnies.
Before I return the floor to the Honourable Member from Durham, I'm going to ask for the second time the Honourable Member from the South Shore of St. Margaret's to please not take the floor unless recognized by the Chair. The Honourable Member from Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals across the aisle may be having a party or some kind of celebration, it seems, but in the process, they are cutting the standard of living in Canada. They are slashing the quality of life for people in our country. It's their tax hikes, their increases in the capital gains tax, housing tax, carbon tax that are making life difficult for Canadians across our country. When will they accept some responsibility for what's happened for the last 9 years and axe the tax hikes that are making Canadians poorer?
Let's see what Mr. Innovation Guy's gonna do. Is he gonna stand up and yell again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader of the Government in the House.
Talk about celebrations. 10 years ago today, former Conservative MP Dean Del Mastro was found guilty, Mr. Speaker, of violating the Elections Act. That was the Leader of the Conservatives' buddy at the time, Mr.
That was the Leader of the Conservatives' buddy. He's so angry. He's like jumping up and down. It sounds
He went on to become the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, and the Parliamentary Secretary at the time was the Leader of the Conservative Party, who was advanced to become the Minister responsible for elections.
But this guy has no idea what he's saying. He's just yelling and like bouncing up and down. He's just
tried to delete thousands of Canadians from being able to vote, Mr.
delete
Speaker. Why
thousands
should any
of
Canadian
Canadians
have confidence
from
in the
being
Leader
able
of the
to
Conservative
vote, huh?
Party, Mr. Speaker?
I love how they always throw shade at Poilievre when after he's done speaking and not able to say anything.
The Honourable Member for... The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, let's be serious. We all know that this government is costing Canadians a lot of money, but now StatsCan is proving it. The last numbers show that per capita GDP has dropped 8 times over the last 9 quarters. What does that mean? That means that GDP has gone up barely by 1% this quarter. In the United States, it's up 3%. The Americans are 3 times luckier than Canadians because of this government. Will the government finally understand that increasing taxes doesn't help Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So on Halloween, my esteemed colleague that I, respect a lot can invent as many numbers as he wants. It's not.
Oh my God, why do we have to talk? It doesn't matter what day it is. Nobody's inventing anything except
Can do
you
is ask his
liberal
colleague,
idiots.
who's sitting right next to him, the member for Brantford Brant, to rise at least one time in this House to apologize for his words about French last week.
What the fuck?
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent.
What kind of deflection was that?
The member knows very well that he apologized, Mr. Speaker. What's the reality here? The reality is that it's time to put the focus on the economic reality. And if this university professor was attentive to reality, then he would see what StatsCan has put forward and that it's real. And
Me too. I don't know what the hell's going. Nobody. There were no news stories about what an MP said about French. I don't know. US dollar is just under $1.40 Canadian. Yeah, it's
even The Economist, I'm sure he's familiar with The Economist. He's probably read at least once in his life. The Economist concluded that Canada is now lower than Alabama, the poorest state in the United States. Is he proud of his record?
apparently so. What?
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Well, let's talk about three realities. Economic reality, interest rates are down, inflation is down, unemployment is down.
Okay. Are we sure?
Let's talk about the reality that the Conservative leader still doesn't understand on Halloween. It's that
Oh my God! Stop with the on Halloween shit.
the Canada Dental Care Plan exists. It hasn't magically disappeared. Third reality, it's that the member for Brantford Brant has still not apologized in this House. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, it's Halloween, and the worst house of horrors is right here in Ottawa. It's the Canada Revenue Agency.
Mr. Speaker, if I hear one more thing about it being Halloween, I'm gonna hit the Be Right Back screen and take a fucking walk. That's what I'm gonna do.
Fraudsters got $6 million in fake tax returns. The agency didn't even realize that different people were seeing their money paid into the same bank account. And that's not it, Mr. Speaker. There's one particular fraudster
What the fuck? The French don't even like the French now, or still? No, Brantford Brant is not a French-speaking writing, so it was an English guy. The guy who apparently said something about French is an English speaking.
To modify his tax returns to try and get $40 million back. And the CRA gave him $10 million before the guy's bank told them that something fishy was going on. How many other cases like this of fraudsters who have two hands in the candy jar? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, fraud is completely unacceptable, and I can assure you that we are taking the necessary measures to deal with the situation. Obviously, the CRA, with all the personal information that it has, is a target of choice, but it's not the agency that's directly targeted,
Remove
but
the
often
Prime
the
Minister
information
on
that
Halloween. That
we
would be
share
nice.
as citizens through different systems is more at risk. So personally, we all need to be more careful, but the agency is very vigilant. We have experts who are being very careful, and as soon as fraud is identified, the citizen impacted is informed and the account is blocked, Mr. Speaker.
The citizen is informed. Citizen, you have been informed that fraud has been done.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Minister might think that it's our fault, but we want to know how many other times the agency has been a victim of fraud because there's a lack of verification, because the agency has been hiding the real numbers. Since 2020, in 2020, they've told the Privacy Commissioner there have been 113 cases where private information has been used for fraud. But when media asked questions, the agency revealed that it wasn't 113 cases, there were more than 31,000 cases.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So the revenue agency has been hacked and defrauded over 31,000 times.
The minister, meanwhile, is
And
a
they
true
underreported it
ghost.
by,
She's refused to stand and participate in interviews. So why can't she tell the truth the first time? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, you know, I do what I say what I do, and I'm not hiding from anyone. The law prevents us from discussing specific cases. The member knows
The law prevents us from discussing specific cases. They're not asking you to discuss specific cases. They're asking how many times has the fucking agency been defrauded? Do you even know? That's what they're asking, you moron.
prevents us from discussing specific cases. The member knows that. However, the agency is very well equipped. We have experts. We're working with all kinds of specialists. We're working with other countries as well to share best practices. And there was a meeting just 2 weeks ago in Ottawa, and I can tell you that we're doing what we have to do, and we have the experts that we need. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, we're seeing more and more fraud at the CRA because nobody is doing the necessary verifications, including the minister, who has the power to request investigations. And that's not even counting cases where there was or the agency frauded itself.
How the fuck do you fraud? How do you fraud yourself?
Where we had 330 employees who gave themselves a CERB and had to be fired.
Oh, that's how. Employees giving themselves CERB.
It's vampires who are guarding the blood bank, Mr. Speaker. The CRA is haunted by problems with verification, with accountability, with transparency, with leadership. It needs a little exorcism, I think. When is the minister going to clean things up?
Enough with the fucking horror movie references. Jesus Christ. Holy crap. Oh my god, you guys are cringe.
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the Canada Revenue Agency has 60,000 employees. When we went through COVID, there were a number of countries that envied us because our country, our Liberal government, did what was necessary to help people, to help businesses, and that's why we've had a softer landing.
That's why we had so many employees giving themselves benefits when they didn't have any business doing so. Because we had lots of countries that were jealous of us and our ability to take care of people. Okay, that makes sense.
In the world, 60,000 employees, and all those who got CERB were verified one by one because they did what was necessary.
They were all verified one by one,
were
not by AI at all, en masse. No.
The Honourable Member from Thornhill.
Just a few days after the Leader of the Opposition introduced a common-sense plan to axe the GST on new home sales, even the Housing Minister's own advisors were raving about the proposal. Economist Dr. Mike Moffat said, quote, "It's a bold, bold plan," and he calls himself, quote, "a big fan of the idea." He and other Canadians know that housing has become out of reach and the government has doubled its cost in this country. So will the housing minister listen to his own advisors and implement our common sense tax cut so that Canadians can finally afford a home?
Yay, Melissa Landsman.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
If the member is going to quote Mike Moffat, Mr. Speaker, she ought to include the entire quote. What he said was that if the Conservative proposal was to go ahead, they ought not to propose things like getting rid of the Housing Accelerator Fund.
That's not what he said.
They ought not to also get rid of infrastructure programs that enable housing, Mr. Speaker. He should listen. If he doesn't want to listen to Liberal MPs, that's fine. He should listen to Conservative MPs, a dozen, Mr. Speaker, probably more, who want the Accelerator Fund, who have advocated for it because they know it's vital to getting more homes built.
You mean it's vital to getting more cities paid to do nothing?
The Honourable Member from Thornhill.
Speaker, maybe that member should listen to the housing minister who said his $3 billion of housing accelerator money built 0 homes.
Right.
0 is less than the 195,000 homes built under the Leader of the Opposition when he was housing minister. And now add this.
But they only built 6 social housing units. So that doesn't matter.
To the stellar record of a guy who broke our immigration system, who lost track of all of the people that he let in, while the Prime Minister is fighting his own caucus. He gave that minister a promotion. So when will the housing minister leave fantasy land, join Conservatives in the real world, and axe the tax so we can build the homes?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Years ago, Mr. Speaker, when I worked with the Leader of the Opposition on the Finance Committee, he told me something that might shock you. It's hard for him to make friends because of his personality.
Really? That's what he told you?
What we look at now is he at least has one friend on the opposite side. His best friend, as I understand it, Mr. Speaker, the MP for St. Albert Edmonton. In fact, that member has advocated for the Housing Accelerator Fund. He went behind the Leader's back. I hope it doesn't affect their relationship, their friendship, Mr. Speaker. He went behind his Leader's back
What the fuck? You are such a little shit disturber. I bet you, even if that was, even if any of that was true, which it's not, I guarantee you, you're like the guy who goes and causes a fight between two friends just for fun, aren't you?
Order. Order. But if you're gonna heckle, let it be a good joke. Anyway.
Oh, fucking Fergus, man. Why can't you always be like that? Why can't you always be like that?
Honourable member from Kenora.
They're not worth the cost of housing, Mr. Speaker, and many young Canadians have given up completely on their dream of home ownership, and it is why common sense Conservatives will axe the federal sales tax on new homes. Mr. Speaker, for an $800,000 house, this tax cut would save the home buyer $40,000. In other words, $2,200 per year in mortgage payments. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister finally listen to our common sense plan, axe the GST on housing to ensure that young Canadians can finally afford
that's $200 a month difference on a mortgage payment. That's a lot.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Slogans, Mr. Speaker. You scratch the surface of that so-called idea, what do you find? They would axe something that would get rid of the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is so crucial. What does it do? It provides funding for affordable housing to counter homelessness. It provides funding for zoning changes. It provides funding for housing-enabling infrastructure, for community centers, Mr. Speaker, even for vacant buildings in downtowns, Mr. Speaker, so they can be converted for housing.
Then why haven't we had many
Take the member
converted
for
buildings
Central Okanagan
into
who
apartments
advocated
then?
for it, their former finance critic who unfortunately is on the back benches because he advocates for good programs.
The Honourable Member from Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this week Special Interlocutor Kimberly Murray delivered her final report on missing and disappeared Indigenous children and
Disappeared? Missing and disappeared Indigenous children and women. That just sounds way more ominous than it should be.
burials in Canada. Among the obligations was adding residential school denialism to the criminal code. It is an essential measure to protect survivors.
Denying the residential schools would be criminal? Why would you even deny that the residential schools existed? It's common knowledge.
And violence. The Attorney General accepted this report, but will he listen to survivors, adopt my bill, put an end to the incitement of hate, and implement this obligation now?
You're here.
She sounds like an angry news anchor every time she talks.
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Winnipeg Centre for that very important question. I want to acknowledge the report from the Special Interlocutor, which was received by the Attorney General earlier this week. It puts forward some very compelling issues that should be discussed and studied. We as a government are going to look into it, and we will get back to both the Special Interlocutor as well as Canadians on next steps forward.
The Honourable Member from Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians' homes have been swept away in floods, and hundreds of people have died in BC's heat waves. This week, the Lancet report revealed a stark escalation in health threats caused by the climate crisis.
But Conservatives want to deny the climate crisis, right?
Despite this, and against all advice, the Liberals keep handing out billions in subsidies to oil and gas. And the Conservatives can't even agree if climate change is real. The health of Canadians is at stake. Will the Liberals stop fueling the climate crisis and end fossil fuel subsidies
That's got to
today?
be a Green Party or an NDP.
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for her question. The good news is that Canada is the only G20 country to have eliminated fossil fuel subsidies thanks to the NDP, Mr. Speaker. I'd be happy to provide her office with a briefing on this. Thank you.
Bravo. The Honourable Member from Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, dental care is health care. Today we have hit a milestone of 1 million Canadians who have already accessed care with our government's Canadian Dental Care Plan. A single visit to the dentist can cost hundreds of dollars. Canadians shouldn't have to cancel their dental appointment because they can't afford it.
And a lot of Canadians don't because they have provincial benefits, if not
tell this House
employee
how the
benefits.
Canadian Dental Care Plan will make life more affordable for Canadians.
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the member for her question, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the member for not asking me a hard question. I don't
today
like
we've hit
those.
a milestone across this country. Over 1 million Canadians have access to dental care services. That is certainly something that we, on this side of the House, we are proud of, Mr. Speaker. But this is what we know. Here are the facts. Conservatives continue to vote against Canadians. They vote against dental care plans. They vote against the things that make life make sense. Common sense for Canadians, whether it is dental care, whether it is affordable child care, whether it is a national school food care program. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker,
school food care
we are
program?
taking care of what matters
You're
most.
caring for the school food?
To Canadians.
The Honourable Member from Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. The Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that the carbon tax is costing Canadians more than they get back. The Prime Minister's plan to quadruple the carbon tax will cost Manitoba families an extra $1,300 per year. Evergreen Basic Needs, a food bank in Gimli, Manitoba, has seen a 30%
Gimli? Oh my God, we have a town called Gimli? I love
increase
that.
in usage since 2020. When will the Prime Minister finally start listening to Canadians and have a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, what the member is saying would be tragic if it was only true, which is not. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has said...
Wow. So the food bank isn't running out of food and money? So that's a lie?
In his report, that Canadian gets more money back from carbon pricing than what they pay, Mr. Speaker. And that's even after he doesn't factor in the impacts of climate change. July and August of 2024 are the costliest months ever. It's the costliest year ever for climate impacts in Canada. $7 billion in climate impacts, Mr. Speaker. What do the Conservative have to say about that? Let the planet burn, not on this side.
Oh yeah, that's totally what they say. They say let the planet burn. That's what every Conservative says. Yeah.
House, Mr. Speaker, we will work to fight climate change and we will work to support Canadians.
The honourable member from Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, the minister knows that a tax plan isn't an environment plan. And with the Prime Minister's out-of-touch policies and reckless spending, 1/4 of Canadians are relying on food banks this fall. Sadly, this includes members of the Canadian Armed Forces who can't afford to eat under this costly Liberal NDP government. Earlier this year, military personnel doing cyber training at Wills College had to rely on food banks because they couldn't afford to eat.
That's insane. They're doing cyber training and they can't fucking eat.
At one point, college staff even had to set up a food
hasn't
bank
been the same since dwarf tossing was
to
banned.
support them in the college. Will the Prime Minister quit making life more unaffordable for our troops and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
I've heard a number of Conservative MPs just talk about Jasper. Let's talk about Jasper, Mr. Speaker. Do you know how...
Yeah, let's talk about Jasper and how you ignored what Parks Canada said about removing all the deadfall.
Order, colleagues. Order. Order.
Shut up. Everybody shut up.
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change from the top.
Let's talk about Jasper, Mr. Speaker. Do you know how much they invested in 2011 in prescribed burns and mechanical removals around Jasper? $0, Mr. Speaker. They cut funding from $30 million in 2010, 2011, all the way to 2015.
Okay, it's 2024 now. We're not talking about what they did. We're talking about what you did.
Do you know who was the director of the Minister of the Environment in those days? The member for Thornhill, Mr.
Colleagues, at some point we're going to run out of time to be able to have all the questions posed. The chair cannot hear the answer. Can we allow the minister to please give his answer so that we can move on and make sure that all the questions that have been planned to be asked today be asked today? The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
For 4 consecutive years, the Conservative Party of Canada slashed funding for Jasper fire prevention.
That was okay. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you guys ignoring the fucking Parks Canada warnings.
Every year, Mr. Speaker, we've invested in the last 6 years alone $800 million. And if the Conservatives want to blame someone, they can go and talk to their colleague from Thornhill, who was the director of the Minister of the Environment in those days, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Colleagues, I see members from all sides of the House who are dependent upon translation devices who cannot hear what the answer is, or in sometimes the question is. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Cumberland Colchester to ask this question. I'm asking all members to please listen attentively.
Yeah, everybody be attentive. Everybody shut up. Everyone be attentive and polite.
Speaker, after 9 years, the NDP Liberals are not worth the cost. Stats are clear. Nova Scotians relying on food banks have increased by over 50% in the last 5 years to over 40,000 visits per month. Another staggering report this morning shows that 40% of Atlantic Canadians are struggling to afford necessities like food, rent, and home heating.
Yeah, you know, just the basic shelter needs.
Failed former Minister of Immigration and now floundering Minister of Housing clearly cannot help Nova Scotians. But, Speaker, there is an answer. Will the Prime Minister call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to start by saying Happy Halloween to Canadians today.
Oh, shut up!
But what kids should be most frightened about this Halloween is the cuts that would be made by the Conservative leader. And I apologize to Johnny Depp in advance, but the leader of the Conservatives is like the Edward Scissorhands of politics.
Oh my God. Oh my freaking God. He did not just do that. He did not just pull the... What is with the fucking cringe the Liberals are doing today?
What else is truly spooky is that the Conservative leader refuses to get his security clearance to protect Canadians against foreign interference. I can only speculate he must be concerned about the ghosts in his closet.
Cringe.
Comparing any individual member to a fictional individual member. Colleagues, comparing any individual member to a fictional character is not within the realms of what we're doing here.
Fuck you, you stupid bastard, and your cringy comparisons.
I'm going to ask all members to restrain themselves from doing that. The honourable member from... Brandon Source has the floor.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberal government, life is more expensive than ever.
That's right.
Food Banks Canada's hunger report indicates over 2 million Canadians used food banks in March, up 6% from last year. In my riding, the Samaritan House Food Bank saw nearly 2,000 more people accessing their services in the last 2 years. 4 in 10, Mr. Speaker, were children. 1 in 10 was a senior. Despite this, the NDP Liberals continue to increase the cost of groceries by increasing the carbon tax. When will this Prime Minister call a carbon tax election?
That's right. When? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
If they can't do the basic, and learn English, they shouldn't be elected. Yep.
To the leader of the House, leader of the government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This question has already been answered. But let me tell you and talk about the foreign interference. The leader of the Conservative Party says, Mr. Speaker, not to worry. My chief of staff has the clearance, and he will tell me. The leader of the Conservative Party doesn't understand law, Mr. Speaker. It would be illegal for the chief of staff to give the names to the leader.
And you just fucking said why he won't get the security clearance, because it would be illegal for him to talk about what he learned in the House of Commons, and therefore that's why he won't do it.
Of the Conservative Party, Mr. Speaker. It's time. It is time.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Order.
Everybody shut up.
Order!
I wish the Speaker would be able to say shut up.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary has 7 seconds left on the clock.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Conservative Party doesn't understand it. He's asking his chief of staff to break the law. That is a bad
And you're asking him to break the law by getting his security clearance and then calling you guys out.
You need to understand, breaking the law.
Order, everybody. You're being annoying.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquis-Nongé.
No, not Pip.
The filibuster in the Senate against C-282 and the protection of supply management should outrage every party. No one here should accept that two unelected senators, are trying to overturn the majority vote of all parties in this House. This is a full frontal assault on democracy. Peter Beam and...
A full frontal assault on democracy! Yeah, we're a constitutional monarchy, but what the senators are doing is still wrong.
Are unelected individuals who act like monarchs appointed by divine right. Letting these two get away with it is like dialing democracy back 3 centuries. Enough. Will the Prime Minister ask them to immediately pass C-282.
No.
The Honourable Minister for National Revenue.
What the hell are you
Speaker,
answering
with all the respect I have for my colleague, I feel that he should also respect our institutions, whatever his opinions of them are. It's important we are for supply management, 110% for supply management. We want this bill to be adopted. We supported this bill. A number of us have encouraged our Senate colleagues to act much more rapidly. We're asking them loud and clear to act with due diligence. We want it to come back as quickly as possible, but they are independent. We have to let them do their job. But we are ready to receive this bill once again. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquis-Nongers. The biggest institution is our democracy, Mr. Speaker. Peter Beam and Peter Harder, two unelected individuals, even refused to meet with the Minister for International Trade at committee. They took care to meet every imaginable group opposed to supply management, but they didn't want to see the minister. This is full proof that the Prime Minister must personally intervene. He is the one who appointed these senators, who now want to turn the Senate back into the House of Lords, superior to the House of the People. We can't allow this to happen. When will the Prime Minister finally ask his two monarchs to stop harming our farmers and producers? Before we move on to the answer, I would just like to remind all members
to stop talking.
It is part of our usual practices and it's part of our regulations to always be respectful of the other place and those who are taking care of the other place. So I'd ask members to be careful in the vocabulary used.
Well, if the senators are acting like fucking the House of Lords assholes, then they should be called out.
The Honourable Minister for Public Services and Procurement. My colleague is right. Harming farmers and producers is exactly what the Bloc Québécois is doing by allying themselves with the Conservatives. Only the Conservatives are for now against supply management, so signing an alliance with them, saying that all they'll do now is try and trigger an election, means that they support Conservatives that will cut, including supply management.
They wouldn't cut supply, man. Why are you guys lying so much? Like, holy shit.
Saying that all they'll do now is try and trigger an election, means that they support Conservatives that will cut, including supply management. And so they're going to have to explain this to their electorate as well. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker,
the fjord of
Moisson-Saigny-Lac-Saint-Jean, a food bank, states that there are 2 times greater an amount of people asking for help than 2 years ago. More and more people are fighting just to feed themselves. The Bloc Québécois has done nothing for Quebec. Why does the Prime Minister and the leader of the Bloc Québécois prefer to feed bureaucracy in Canada rather than allow Quebecers to feed their families? The Honourable Minister for Fisheries and Oceans. Listen, the leader of the Conservatives and the Conservatives have always shown their true colours. They've confirmed that their main plan is to cut, Mr. Speaker. That's what the Conservatives are. Cut, chop, chopping dental care, chopping helping families.
Chop, cut. Oh my god, they're so cringy and so dramatic.
With regards to small boat ports, chop, Mr. Speaker. Medicare, Pharmacare, chop. They have understood. And children are scared of the Conservatives. It's Halloween and they are absolutely spooked by the Conservatives today. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-le-Fjord. It's rather ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. After 9 years of our Liberals, food banks cannot meet demand. 107% increase in food bank use in my riding. Those who used to give food are now those who are coming to get food.
Yeah, volunteers that used to work at food banks are now lining up at food banks trying to get food.
This because of this government's obsession to tax, fuel, and everything, and food. And the Bloc agrees because they voted for confidence twice. They voted against Quebec, so it's high time for an election. When will the Prime Minister finally trigger this election, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister for Fisheries, Oceans and the Coast Guard. Mr. Speaker, you were right earlier. You can't compare people from fictional characters because the reality is worse than fictional characters, Mr. Speaker. What I would like to know is when will our colleagues inform us of the other cuts they will make?
You mean the cuts to all the bureaucracy that you guys have put in place?
Those who they will attack. Those who find it hard to put a roof over their heads. We are impatient to hear what they're going to cut next. And the Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this Halloween, the Liberal Scarecrow has been spooking Canadians for 9 years now.
Oh my God. And that's going to be called unparliamentary.
They're impoverishing our families, our seniors, and our young people. With the pure complicity of the Bloc Québécois, they are letting the poor suffer and beg for food. Today, in the La Presse newspaper, the headline is The Silent Crisis. The Moisson Montréal Food Bank notes a sharp increase in requests, with 1 million requests per month.
Wow.
And unfortunately, 14% of these requests are from students. Why do the leader of the Bloc and the Prime Minister prefer to feed the bureaucratic machine in Ottawa rather than allow Quebecers to feed their families? The Honourable Minister for Public Services and Procurement. It's rather astounding, Mr. Speaker, to hear Conservative members talking about how we need to take care of children when their very leader says that it's sheer bureaucracy to support breakfasts and free food.
No. He said that your program is bureaucracy because it hasn't provided actual healthy food to children.
Our schools, in my riding, in his riding. So how can my Conservative Quebec colleagues accept that their leader call this sheer bureaucracy?
Because they know what he's saying and what you're saying.
I know it's Halloween. I know that everyone's looking forward to trick-or-treating this evening. But come on. The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier has had his opportunity to ask his questions, so he should wait his next turn to speak. Now, the Honourable Member for Louis Hébert. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader comes to Quebec and has promised to fund a hypothetical third link. And no one knows what the costs are going to be. But he doesn't seem to be shy in removing dental access to the 10,000 youth that have been able to have dental care in my riding.
There's no
now
program
over 1 million Canadians have received necessary dental care that we implemented, and the Conservatives are threatening this. Can the Minister for Public Services and Procurement explain to us how this program benefits Canadians from coast to coast to coast?
This is a softball question.
The Honourable Minister, of Public Services and Procurement. It's Halloween, Mr. Speaker. And the Conservative leader is quite
the cringe, my spine.
He says that dental care doesn't exist. Poof. He just managed to make it disappear. He says that it doesn't exist, but he can't say why he's against this dental care. But there are 20,000 seniors in one single Conservative riding that can now have access to dental care.
It's like he's acting like a whole sloth of Canadians have had like British teeth for all this time until they swooped in and delivered dental care.
How will the Prime Minister, the leader of the Conservatives, make these 20,000 people disappear?
Mr. Speaker, 9 months ago, Belleville, Ontario was rocked by an opioid crisis. 36 overdoses in only 48 hours. This Prime Minister said he would be there for Belleville, Ontario, but after 9 months, not one more dollar for infrastructure, no more treatment beds. And just last week, we had 11...
Hello.
overdoses in only 2 hours. Wow. How many more months does Belleville, Ontario have to wait for any support for mental health from this Prime Minister?
Oh, well, if you want to
ask the honourable member from Orléans to not take the floor unless recognized. The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as the member well knows, I visited Belleville and met with the mayor and all stakeholders involved, because every loss of life in Belleville or in any community across this country is tragic, Mr. Speaker. But that is exactly why we launched the Emergency Treatment Fund, which is already open and accepting applications from municipalities and from Indigenous communities across this country, because we are there for communities, Mr. Speaker.
We are there for communities to make sure that we cook the spoons of every heroin addict and crush the pills of every meth head, and make sure that they're able to smoke their rocks and inject their drugs in peace.
Each and every day, harm reduction, treatment, all of these tools are healthcare, Mr. Speaker, and we will stand by communities and save lives.
The honourable member from Bay of Quinte.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while Belleville's waiting for any dollars from the federal government, Belleville's been paying dollars to the federal government. Belleville Council this week released a report that showed over the last 5 years they've paid $1.5 million to the carbon tax and getting no refund. You know, when this money could have went to supporting mental health, could have paid for the renovations for their hub for mental health. Not only that, when this Prime Minister quadruples that tax, Belleville's going to pay $5 million in 5 years. Why doesn't the Prime Minister give that money back to Belleville, or better yet, call a carbon tax election so Belleville and its residents can decide how to spend their money on mental health?
There you go.
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let me be clear, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, they do. So why are you not acting?
They cut the drug treatment fund by 2/3. Let me ask this to the member. Why does he allow the leader of the Conservatives to use those who struggle with addiction and substance use as props in fundraising, rather than standing by those who need help? Why do they advocate to close safe consumption sites that have saved 58,000 lives?
Safe consumption sites do not save lives. They just provide clean places to overdose.
They don't care, Mr. Speaker. They will not invest in what's needed. On this side of the House, we are fighting to save lives. Shame on them for criminalizing people who need health care.
The Honourable Member from Kildonan and St. Paul's.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, crime is up and churches are being targeted. A Winnipeg neighborhood saw a 61% increase in crime. Churches are having to pay thousands of dollars for repairs and security. One church had to put up an 8-foot barbed wire fence to keep criminals out. A woman was victim to an armed carjacking while leaving church, and 2 people died last month after a church was set on fire. In fact, 30 churches have been burned to the ground over the past few years, and countless more have been vandalized in Canada. When will the Liberals stop blocking the Conservative Bill C-411, which specifically holds arsonists accountable for church burnings?
It should hold arsonists accountable for any religious gathering place burning.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we believe in this country everyone deserves to be safe where they go to school, where they pray. Mr. Speaker, safety in our communities is our utmost importance. This is why we have provided more funding to help religious institutions, places of worship right across this country to put in place additional measures to help keep them safe. Mr. Speaker, we are deeply committed to this. This is not something the Conservatives own, because we are investing in our communities to keep all places of worship safe.
The Honourable Member from Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from different ethnic backgrounds are now scared. They can be target of violent crimes by foreign nations. The RCMP believes agents from India have been targeting the Sikh community, bullying, blackmailing, and even plotting to kill some of them. Foreign interference is a serious issue, and all of us need to work together to protect Canadians. Can the Minister for Emergency Preparedness tell us this House to the best way to protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister
that was written in whatever language she speaks and translated into English.
Mr. Speaker, the allegations made by the RCMP over the intimidation, the extortion, murder by a foreign government on Canadian soil should be taken serious by all parties. We owe it to the Sikh community and to all Canadians to put partisanship aside and work on solutions to assure the integrity and sovereignty of our country. And that is why it is deeply disturbing that the Conservative leader still refuses to get a security clearance. Why is he willing to put our democracy and the security of Canadians at risk?
The Honourable Member from London Fanshawe.
London families with loved ones trapped in Sudan have been failed by this government. It has been 8 months since the Liberals announced a program to bring families in Sudan to safety, but only 5 applications have been approved. As the humanitarian crisis in Sudan gets worse, more and more people will die. Londoners were promised their family would have a path to safety by this government. Will the minister fix his failed program so families can save their relatives before it's too late?
Nope.
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
We worked with families to devise this program. She also knows well, or should know, that since the war broke out, we have facilitated the departure of 9,000 people from Sudan.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that all of them were from London.
This particular program, we will continue to reunite families and work through to make sure that they come to Canada in safety.
The Honourable Member from Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An unspeakable tragedy. A Canadian mother of 6, known as FJ only. Her 6 children were repatriated to Canada, but this government refused to allow their mother to travel with them. She's now dead in a Turkish prison. I ask the honourable government members here, the Minister for Public Safety, the Minister for International Affairs, will they follow the requirements of justice to have an immediate independent investigation into FJ's death and immediately repatriate all remaining Canadian detainees in northeast Syria?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands for her compassion and for her concern for people around the world. It's well noted and respected. My thoughts are indeed with children who have already endured so much in this particular situation. We are well aware of these reports, and we are treating this situation with the utmost seriousness and the sense of urgency it absolutely deserves. Unfortunately, I'm not able to comment further due to privacy concerns, but we will continue to keep this House updated. Thank you.
319. The House will now proceed to the taking of deferred recorded division on the motion to concur in the second report of the Special Joint.
So, that's going to be what we've covered for today. It was crazy. Ow. I can't believe that is how that the Liberals are and the NDP just got that cringy today. That was bad. That was incredibly cringy. That was one of the cringiest question periods I think I've ever been a part of live streaming. So yeah, I think wow. I think I'm going to go and find some dinner, and I will be back tonight for Glass-Eyed Gaming. I am wide awake, so don't worry, I won't miss it. So thank you for watching this. I hope you guys have a great Halloween night, and I'll be back in a couple of hours for Glass-Eyed Gaming. So thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you around 9:30.